Many men believe that their lives will change when the world gives them better opportunities, when they have more money, more time, or more luck. They think they need something external to transform them. But the truth is that the most powerful change begins with what you tell yourself each day. I, Brian Tracy, have learned that the words you feed your mind become the programming that guides your decisions, your discipline, and ultimately, your destiny. And ultimately, it's not about waiting for perfect conditions. It's about creating the internal conditions that allow you to take advantage of any circumstance. And the most effective tool for doing this is affirmations. Powerful phrases that train you to think, feel, and act like the man you want to become. Because every time you affirm with conviction who you are and where you're going, you're rewriting your identity, and that identity is what creates results. You don't need external miracles. You need firm internal words, because what you repeat to yourself each day shapes your character, and your character shapes your future. If you want to change your life, you must first change what you tell yourself. The way you talk to yourself every day determines the quality of your life far more than you might imagine. Affirmations are phrases that seem simple, but when repeated with conviction, they have the power to reprogram your mind. And this is no abstract concept. Your brain adapts to the messages it receives constantly. If you tell yourself that you are weak, you will act weak. If you tell yourself that you are unlucky, you will start seeing obstacles everywhere. If you convince yourself that you are not good enough, you will accept crumbs instead of demanding what you deserve. That is how the mind works. It does not distinguish between what is real and what you repeat frequently. That is why the words you choose each day are like commands that shape your actions, and those actions shape your destiny. Many men believe that affirmations are a waste of time because they do not generate immediate results. They look in the mirror, repeat a phrase 2 or 3 times, and expect a miraculous change. When they do not see quick results, they give up. But that is the same mistake they make in everything they do, confusing the immediate with what is important. Affirmations work like physical training. A single session at the gym doesn't change your body, but months of discipline can transform it completely. In the same way, an affirmation repeated every day with focus and commitment transforms your mindset, your discipline, and ultimately your reality. You must understand that what you tell yourself silently weighs more than any external criticism. You can receive support from others. You can hear words of encouragement, but nothing is more powerful than your inner voice. That voice is what accompanies you in times of difficulty, what sustains you or sinks you when no one is looking. And what that voice repeats does not come out of nowhere, it arises from what you have chosen to affirm for yourself. If you get used to affirmations of power, your inner voice will become your ally. But if it feeds on doubts and complaints, that voice will be your worst enemy. One of the most powerful affirmations you can start repeating to yourself is, I have control over my life. It seems obvious, but most men live as if it is not true. They blame circumstances, the economy, the past, the people around them, and by blaming, they give away their power. When you affirm with conviction that you have control, you begin to take that power back. Your mind looks for opportunities instead of excuses. It looks for solutions instead of problems. That affirmation trains you to live as the master of your destiny, not as a victim of your environment. Another essential affirmation is, I am disciplined and consistent. Because success is never the product of a single action, it is always the result of daily repetition. Every time you repeat this phrase, you are reinforcing the identity of someone who follows through on their promises, who sticks to habits even when they don't feel like it, who doesn't give up in the face of difficulty. And that identity is worth more than any momentary motivation. Discipline does not depend on emotions, it depends on conviction. And when conviction is repeated in your mind every day, it becomes a natural part of who you are. Remember this, affirmations are not empty words, they are instructions to your mind. And your mind, sooner or later, obeys. The man who gets used to affirming power, focus, gratitude, and abundance ends up living with those qualities. Because what begins as words becomes thoughts. What becomes a thought becomes an action, and what is repeated becomes a destiny. That's how powerful this practice is. And if you take it seriously, it won't just change your way of thinking, it will change your entire life. Affirmations are like seeds. You sow today what you want to reap tomorrow. The problem is that most men unknowingly sow phrases of scarcity, weakness, and resignation. They repeat things like, I can't, it's difficult, I'm unlucky, it's too late for me. And those phrases, even though they may seem harmless, gradually penetrate their minds until they become beliefs. And when a belief takes hold, it guides all their actions. A man who believes he can't doesn't even try. A man who believes he doesn't deserve it rejects opportunities. A man who believes that success is reserved for others acts as if he is doomed to failure. Thus, what began as a word becomes a destiny. The path to transformation begins when you decide to change that internal language, and you change it consciously, replacing each limiting phrase with a powerful affirmation. It's not about fooling yourself, it's about reprogramming yourself. If for years you've been telling yourself that you're not disciplined, you need to counteract it with a clear affirmation. I am a disciplined man. I act consistently every day. At first it may feel strange, even false, because your mind is used to the opposite pattern, but if you insist, if you repeat it with conviction, you begin to weaken the old programming and install a new one. And over time, that new programming will lead you to act differently, to maintain firm habits, to become the person you are affirming yourself to be. One of the most powerful affirmations you can adopt is, I am capable of achieving everything I set my mind to. Because doubt is the greatest enemy of success. Doubt paralyzes you, makes you back down, convinces you that it's not worth trying, but when you affirm forcefully that you are capable, you are building confidence. And that confidence is the basis of all action. A man who is sure that he can finds a way, faces the obstacle, and stands firm. A man who doubts gives up before he starts. Therefore, this affirmation must be etched into your mind every morning and every night. Another essential affirmation is, I own my time and my decisions. Because the man who does not control his time is condemned to live under the control of others. His time is his most valuable resource, and every day he wastes it on distractions, he is giving it away. When you affirm that you own your time, you train yourself to make decisions with intention, to prioritize what matters, to reject what takes you away from your goals. That simple affirmation puts you in the position of protagonist, not spectator. What you must engrave in your mind is that affirmations are not just pretty phrases, they are commitments that you make to yourself. They are reminders of the identity that you are building, and identity is what defines your actions. If you want different results, you need to be a different man, and to do that, you need to talk to yourself as such, because what is repeated is reinforced, and what is reinforced ends up shaping your life. Therefore, do not underestimate the power of this practice. Each affirmation is a command, and each command repeated brings you closer to the man you are destined to be. Powerful affirmations are not empty phrases that are repeated without meaning. They are statements of identity. They do not describe what you want to have someday. They describe who you are right now and who you decide to be in every action. That is the difference that many do not understand. If you simply repeat, I want to be disciplined, your mind interprets it as something distant, as a desire that may never come. But if you affirm, I am disciplined and I act consistently every day, you are giving an order to your subconscious that this is already part of your reality. And the subconscious, which does not distinguish between what is real and what is repeated with conviction, begins to align its emotions, thoughts, and behaviors with that affirmation. This is how you gradually become the man you declare yourself to be. An essential affirmation that every man must adopt. It is, I am a person of value, worthy of respect and abundance. Because most failures do not come from a lack of ability, but from a lack of self-esteem. A man who does not believe he is valuable accepts mediocre jobs, toxic relationships, and small opportunities. He lives convinced that he does not deserve more. But when you affirm daily that you are valuable, your mind begins to filter reality differently, stops accepting what demeans you, and begins to seek what elevates you, and begins. That affirmation trains you to expect more of yourself and the world, and when you expect more, you act with more power, more determination, and more clarity. Another profoundly transformative affirmation is, I have control over my emotions, because the man who does not master his emotions is a slave to them. Anger, fear, laziness, anxiety, all become chains if he does not control them. But when you affirm forcefully that you have control, you begin to take responsibility for how you respond to life. You cannot control what happens outside, but you can control how you react inside. That is the key to personal power. And repeating this affirmation trains you not to give in to automatic reactions, but to respond with maturity and clarity. Remember, affirmations must be accompanied by action. It is not enough to repeat phrases in the air. You must back them up with actions. If you affirm that you are disciplined, demonstrate it by getting up early. If you affirm that you own your time, demonstrate it by rejecting distractions. If you affirm that you are valuable, demonstrate it by not settling for mediocre things. Words are the spark, but action is the fire, and when the two come together, transformation is inevitable. Every time you repeat an affirmation to yourself, you are writing a new program in your mind. And if you repeat it consistently, that program replaces the old one. In this way, you stop living in patterns of weakness and start living in patterns of power. Here's how the process works. First, you change what you say to yourself, then you change what you think, then you change what you do, and finally you change what you accomplish. Affirmations are the first step in a chain that ultimately transforms your destiny. So take them seriously. Every word you say to yourself is a prophecy, and you choose whether that prophecy will be one of defeat or victory. Affirmation is a weapon of power, but like all weapons, it depends on how you use it. Many men treat it like a game. They repeat phrases mechanically, without intention, without emotion, and then they wonder, why doesn't anything change? The key is how it is said, when it is said, and above all, with what conviction it is held. An affirmation is not a wish thrown into the air. It is an order that you give to your mind, and the mind only obeys when it perceives firmness. That is why you must repeat them out loud with energy, looking at yourself in the mirror, as if you were talking to a soldier you are training. That seriousness is what turns words into programming, and programming into action. One of the most powerful affirmations you can adopt is, I am unstoppable when I decide to take action. This phrase trains you to break the most destructive habit, procrastination. Because most men waste years waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for motivation, waiting for ideal conditions, and while they wait, life slips away. But when you tell yourself that you are unstoppable, you force yourself to move without excuses. That affirmation reprograms you to take action, even with fear, even with doubt, even without guarantees. And that is the real difference between those who succeed and those who are left dreaming. Another essential affirmation. I am a man of action and results, because what defines you is not your intentions, it is your actions. You can talk for hours about what you plan to achieve, but those words will not change anything if you do not back them up with action. By repeating this affirmation to yourself, you are impressing upon your mind that each day you must produce evidence of what you say. And when the mind accepts that identity, it is no longer satisfied with empty words, it seeks results. It becomes uncomfortable with inaction. It begins to live by a higher standard where little talk and much demonstration becomes the rule. Here I want to pause to remind you of something important. If this message is working for you, subscribe to this channel. Here you will find constant reminders to maintain your discipline, even when no one is watching. And I want to ask you a question so you can leave it in the comments. What personal affirmation do you think you most need to start repeating every day? Be honest, because that answer can make a difference in your life. You must understand that each affirmation is a training of identity. You are not repeating phrases to deceive yourself. You are declaring who you are and forcing yourself to act in coherence with that statement. That coherence is what builds character, and character is the foundation of all wealth, all influence, all true success. Each time you repeat an affirmation, you are carving out a new version of yourself. And if you do it, when you do it with conviction, there will come a day when you won't have to try to believe it. It will come naturally, it will be real, it will be part of who you are. That's the real power of affirmations. Powerful affirmations are more than inspirational phrases. They are daily commitments to the best version of yourself. When you say an affirmation to yourself with conviction, you are drawing a line between who you have been and who you are determined to be. And that line is not easily erased because the mind begins to demand consistency. You can tell yourself every morning, I am disciplined, and then allow laziness to rule your day because the contradiction will bother you until you change your behavior. That's what many people don't understand. Affirmations don't work because they are magical. They work because they reprogram your mind to align with what you declare, and if you repeat them intensely and consistently enough, they will force you to become the man you claim to be. One of the most necessary affirmations is, I deserve abundance, and I am ready to receive it. Many men live in scarcity not because they don't work, but because deep down they believe they don't deserve more. That mindset sabotages them. They reject opportunities, settle for the bare minimum, feel guilty when they prosper. But when you affirm to yourself every day that you deserve abundance, you begin to change your belief system. You no longer accept crumbs, you seek out opportunities that reflect your true worth, and when the opportunity to grow presents itself, you no longer self-sabotage. You launch yourself with determination because you know you deserve the best. Another transformative affirmation is, I am in control of my habits and my decisions. This is vital because life doesn't change with intentions. It changes with habits. A man who affirms this trains himself not to be a slave to laziness, disorder, or excuses. By telling himself that he has control, he trains his mind to choose the right thing even when it's uncomfortable. And that choice repeated day after day is what creates extraordinary results. Because greatness never comes from a single act, it comes from thousands of habits sustained with discipline. Also powerful is the affirmation, I am strong in the face of problems, and I always find solutions. Because the difference between a successful man and one who falls behind is not the absence of difficulties, it's how he faces them. By repeating this phrase to yourself, you program your mind to seek answers instead of complaints, to stand firm when others give up, to see every obstacle as an opportunity to grow. That mindset gives you an advantage, because the marketplace and life always favor those who solve problems, not those who complain. What you must understand is that each affirmation is like a brick in the construction of your character. At first they seem like isolated words, but over time they form a impenetrable wall of confidence, discipline, and determination. And that wall protects you from doubt, fear, and mediocrity. That's why you must be consistent. It's not enough to repeat affirmations a couple of times and expect miracles. You must live them, breathe them, remember them in every difficult moment. Because the day your mind firmly believes what you affirm to yourself, there will be no obstacle capable of stopping you. That day you will begin to live not as someone who expects to change, but as someone who has already changed. Powerful affirmations act as a compass that guides every aspect of your life. If you don't define what you want to believe about yourself, the world will do it for you. And almost always it will do so with messages of limitation, fear, and mediocrity. Society is full of voices that say you can't do it, it's too difficult, it's not for you. And if you don't train your mind with affirmations, those external voices become your internal voice. But when you decide to repeat empowering phrases to yourself, you are raising a shield against everything that wants to put you down. You are training yourself to walk with your head held high even when everything around you invites you to lower your gaze. That's why I say that affirmations are not a luxury, they are a necessity. One of the most important affirmations you should engrave in your mind is, I am responsible for my life and my destiny. This statement separates you from the crowd that lives by blaming others, because as long as you blame, you give away your power. Blaming is saying, my life is in someone else's hands. But when you affirm that you are responsible, you take back control. You begin to see opportunities instead of excuses. You begin to understand that each decision brings you closer or further away from your goal. That affirmation trains you to stop waiting for someone else to rescue you and to become the architect of your own life. Another affirmation that changes everything is, I am disciplined in my thoughts, in my words, and in my actions. Because discipline is not limited to the body. It begins in the mind. If you let negative thoughts rule, they will eventually reflect in what you do. But when you affirm that you are disciplined on every level, you are training your mind to filter what comes in and what goes out. You force yourself to think with focus, to speak with intention, and to act with consistency. That consistency makes you a solid man, someone others trust, because your life is not chaos. It is an example of consistency. You must also repeat, I am a man of purpose, and every day I get closer to my goals. Because the lack of purpose is what destroys most people. They live busy, but without direction. They move a lot, but do not move forward. An affirmation like this sinks in, reminds you every morning that you are not here to waste time, but to advance on a specific mission. It trains you to live with intention and not randomly. No. Affirmations, when practiced with conviction, become internal pacts. They are not phrases to feel good for a moment. They are commitments that force you to raise your standards. And by repeating them over and over again, you build a new identity. First, you repeat them because you want to believe them, then because you begin to see changes, and finally because they are already part of what that is. That is true power, transforming the way you talk to yourself until your reality matches that new identity. Remember this. Your life is a direct reflection of the words you hold within you. If you want a greater destiny, you must repeat greater affirmations to yourself, because what you say to yourself each day becomes the voice that silently guides you when no one is watching. And that voice can lead you to mediocrity or greatness. The choice is always yours. Each powerful affirmation you adopt is like a brick in the building of your character. And the strength of a house does not depend on a single brick. It depends on the repetition of thousands placed with precision. It is the same with your mind. Repeating an affirmation once does not change anything, but repeating it every day with conviction ends up building an indestructible internal structure. That structure becomes your identity, and your identity dictates your destiny. What you affirm consistently, you end up believing, and what you firmly believe, you end up living. That is the inevitable chain. Word, thought, action, character, destiny. One of the most impactful affirmations is, I am capable to overcome any obstacle that comes my way. Because problems are inevitable. There will always be difficulties, setbacks, disappointments. The difference is not in avoiding them, but in how you face them. When you repeat this affirmation to yourself, you train your mind not to see problems as walls that hold you back, but as tests that strengthen you. And that change in perspective makes you resilient. Instead of giving up, you look for solutions. Instead of complaining, you learn. Instead of stopping, you move forward with more determination. Another affirmation that should be engraved inside you is, I am a courageous man and I make firm decisions. Most men are paralyzed by fear. They have opportunities in front of them, but they let doubt and insecurity rule them. And so life slips away from them amidst indecision. But when you affirm to yourself that you are brave, you begin to act even when you are afraid. Because bravery is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to move forward in spite of it. This affirmation trains you to move decisively, to not get stuck in paralysis, to live with strength. The affirmation is also powerful. I am worthy of respect because I respect myself. You cannot demand from the world what you do not give yourself. If you neglect yourself, if you betray yourself, if you treat yourself with indifference, others will treat you the same. But when you affirm to yourself every day that you deserve respect, you begin to live according to that standard. You take care of your body, you take care of your words, you take care of your decisions. And that consistency turns you into a man who radiates natural respect without needing to ask for it. Affirmations are more than phrases. They are a silent training of your mind. Each repetition is like a hammer blow that molds the steel of your character. At first, you do not see any changes, but over time, the transformation is evident. You stand up with more confidence, you face challenges with more firmness, make decisions with more clarity, and most importantly, begin to live with the conviction that you are capable of achieving whatever you set your mind to. Remember this. The man who controls what he tells himself controls his destiny. If you fill your mind with affirmations of power, your life will inevitably align with that force. Because what is affirmed with faith becomes belief. What is believed firmly becomes action, and what is repeated in action becomes reality. That is the essence of true change. Each powerful affirmation is a declaration of war against mediocrity, because mediocrity does not settle in overnight, it settles in silently through small phrases that you repeat to yourself. I can't. It's too late. It's too difficult. Better tomorrow. And those phrases, when repeated, become invisible chains. What positive affirmations do is break those chains and replace them with new commands that train you to live on another level. They are not simple phrases. They are weapons that reprogram you, that remind you every day that you are not condemned to weakness, but called to greatness. An affirmation that you should repeat every morning is, I am disciplined and I accomplish what I set out to do. Because discipline is the basis of all success. No matter how many talents you have or how many dreams your mind harbors, if you do not develop consistency, nothing will flourish. This affirmation trains you to see yourself as someone who does not betray. Yourself someone who keeps their word. Someone who moves even when there is no motivation, and when your identity is marked by discipline, results become an inevitable consequence. One other essential affirmation is, I am abundant and wealth flows to me because I am prepared to receive it. Many men live rejecting opportunities because deep down they believe they don't deserve them. They sabotage themselves. They seek scarcity because scarcity is more comfortable for them. But when you affirm that you are abundant, you force yourself to act like someone who deserves prosperity. And that change causes you to make bigger decisions, take more courageous risks, and reject what doesn't measure up to your new standards. Wealth doesn't start in the bank, it starts in the mind. And this affirmation is the seed of that transformation. The affirmation is also powerful. I own my thoughts and my emotions, because the man who doesn't control his mind is condemned to be a slave to external things. It only takes one comment, one problem, or one setback for him to fall apart. But when he affirms every day that he is in control, he begins to train himself to respond instead of react. He learns to stay calm in chaos, to maintain clarity in confusion, to choose discipline in temptation. That is the difference between a weak man and a strong man. One is driven by what he feels, the other directs his emotions firmly. Remember something, every affirmation you repeat it's just a reminder, it's a commitment. A commitment to your future, to your character, to your destiny. At first it may sound like just another phrase, but with repetition it becomes your identity. And when your identity changes, everything else changes with it. Because you don't act according to what you want, you act according to what you believe you are. And if you begin to believe that you are disciplined, abundant, strong, and in control of your life, there will be no obstacle that can stop you. Affirmations are the beginning of that silent transformation that over time becomes an unstoppable roar of success. Each powerful affirmation that you repeat is like a seed planted in the soil of your mind. At first it doesn't look like anything. It seems insignificant, even absurd, but over time, with daily repetition and conviction, those seeds germinate, grow, and end up becoming trees that completely transform the landscape of your life. And here is the truth that many do not want to accept. All men are already repeating affirmations every day, but most of them are negative. They say to themselves, I am weak. I can't do it, I have no luck. It's too late. And those silent affirmations are what end up directing your life. You don't run away from affirmations. The difference is whether you choose them intentionally or whether you let them destroy you. One essential affirmation that can change everything is, I am a strong, capable, and dependable man. Because strength is not just physical, it's mental. And the man who affirms himself as strong, acts with strength, rises when others quit, follows through on his promises, becomes someone others can trust. Yeah. That confidence brings respect, opportunity, and leadership. The man who doesn't believe he is strong acts weak, and his whole life reflects that. Another powerful affirmation is, I am consistent and never gives up on what I start. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they give up too soon. They start a project with enthusiasm, but when obstacles come their way, they give up. But when you affirm that you are consistent, you begin to act with a different mindset. You no longer see difficulties as signs of giving up. You see them as evidence that confirms your commitment, and that consistency will take you further than any passing motivation. It is also vital to affirm yourself. I am worthy of respect because I live with integrity. True respect is not demanded, it is attracted. And it is attracted to a man who respects himself, who does not betray his principles, who lives in coherence between what he says and what he does. This affirmation trains him to stand firm even when no one is watching, to choose what is right even when it is difficult. And when his life reflects integrity, the respect of others follows as a consequence. The extraordinary thing about affirmations is that they do not change the external world directly, they change his internal world first. And when his internality changes, everything outside begins to align. His relationships, his work, his finances, his health, everything begins to reflect the new identity he is building. That is why every time you repeat an affirmation with conviction, you are not playing with words, you are rewriting your destiny. Remember this unshakable truth. Life gives you back exactly what you tell yourself. If you affirm greatness, you will act with greatness. If you affirm mediocrity, you will live in mediocrity. There is no escape. What you sow in your mind is what you reap in your life. That is why use affirmations as a daily weapon. Make them a part of your routine until they become as natural as breathing. And one day you will wake up and realize that you no longer have to repeat them to believe them, because you will have become the man you always said you were. On that day, your life will never be the same. Affirmations are the key that unlocks the door to a new identity. They are not just motivational phrases that you repeat without thinking. They are statements that shape what you believe about yourself. And what you believe about yourself determines every decision you make, every habit you sustain, every result you obtain. A man does not become successful by accident. He becomes successful because his mind was already trained to think like a successful person before he had the results. And that mindset is built through discipline, repetition, and empowering affirmations that push him to act like the man he wants to be, even before he sees it in reality. One final affirmation that can change your life is, I am the architect of my destiny and the absolute master of my future. This statement eliminates the victim mentality at its roots. There are no excuses, no culprits, no external conditions that can hold you back. When you affirm yourself as the architect of your destiny, you train yourself to believe that every action counts, that every decision is a brick in the construction of your life. And with that conviction, you stop waiting for the world to change you and start changing it yourself. Another equally powerful closing affirmation is, everything I need to succeed is already inside me, because most people believe they need something external, more money, more connections, more luck. And although external resources help, the truth is that the decisive factor has always been within your character, your discipline, your mindset, your faith in yourself. By repeating this affirmation to yourself, you begin to trust your inner strength instead of expecting it from outside. That confidence frees you, makes you move with more determination, and trains you to see opportunities where others only see limitations. You should also engrave within yourself, I live with purpose, and every day I get closer to my best version. Because purpose is what gives meaning to effort. Without purpose, discipline becomes burdensome. With purpose, discipline becomes motivation. This affirmation reminds you that you are not living by inertia, but with direction, that each day, even in the smallest ways, is bringing you closer to the life you dream of. And when your mind believes in purpose, your body responds with energy, your will with strength, and your spirit with conviction. Remember this with absolute clarity. Affirmations are not a quick fix, they are a system of profound transformation. They work when you repeat them with intention, when you back them up with action, and when you commit to sustaining them until they become part of your identity. First you say them because you want to believe them, then because you begin to feel them, and finally because they are your truth. That is the cycle that changes destiny. In the end, your life will always be a reflection of what you silently tell yourself. You can affirm scarcity, and you will live in limitations. You can affirm greatness, and you will live in greatness. That choice is yours, and you make it each day with the words you repeat. If you want a different future, start declaring it firmly right now, because when your mind believes, your life obeys. And when your life obeys, your entire destiny changes. That is the power of affirmations.